Hi, I'm Peter Rowe. My student number is 9343, and I'm going to do the professional project pitch for my professional project. So the outline of the idea, as says, a recorded showreel of songs from an original musical. And what this means is, rather than it being a recording, because it's a recorded project, of a full-length musical, it's limited to a shorter collection of songs, all from the same original musical. The instrumentation will be drums, piano, guitar, violin, and bass, and of course vocals, a male vocalist and a female vocalist. I did originally plan to write, produce, and stage a full-length musical, but through meetings with my one-to-one supervisor and the eventual research that I did into the module, it was decided that this was not overly ambitious, it says there, but just next to impossible to go through the creative process of actually writing and putting on a musical in a short matter of months. It was it would have required thousands of pounds and vast commitments from people of all walks of life, and it was decided that it would be too great a task to take on because I failed to find any collaborators, and even if I had, it still would have been monumental. So it was compromised to narrow down to this shorter project, which is a recording project very similar to an EP or extended player, designed to give you a flavour of what the musical will be about, the musical style, and more importantly, the characters. Because although it's no longer going to be a full-length musical with completed dialogue and a wide range of contrasting numbers, there will still be some sense of story. And for that reason, it's very, very important to keep up consistency with the characters, so I'll be using the same vocalists and the same musicians for all of the songs. It's not yet decided how many songs there are going to be, but anywhere from 3 to possibly 6, based on length and so on and so forth. I'm still in the creative process of doing that. The methodology I chose to process was critical path method for a number of reasons. Because the potential for adapting the process and inevitably changing is such an important reason when it comes to writing music and releasing musical scores was one of the main reasons, but also out of the other methodologies that were presented to me and that I researched, none of them seemed to be very appropriate for what I was trying to do. But critical path methodology was because the key of the short deadlines and also being able to adapt as the project goes on was really, really, really important. But as I've also made note, one of the common criticisms is you can end up with an overly optimistic plan, because if you just think you can just change the deadline and it'll work out okay, that is just almost a ridiculous thing to expect, because that just doesn't happen, particularly with something like music, where you can have a sudden change of heart, an idea can change once an hour or once a minute. And the best thing that I was able to do about this is, well, it has been and will be, to take the greatest possible care to ensure that every decision that I make relating to my project is made in accordance to the critical path methodology, but also with a serious consideration to the realistic outcomes, as it says there. Because it would be ridiculous to think that if I have not yet produced a single score 1 week before sessions are due to start, I can just say, oh, I can just write a score in a week from nothing, because that would be just ridiculous. Although it looks good on paper, it's just not feasible in real life. So, as it's a recording project, the risks involve the reliability of stakeholders, the project within a time frame, and producing a final record appropriate to the original idea. And because this is a zero-budget project, that is really the only tangible risk. As I say, because the risks cannot be overcome through the critical path methodology are concerned with stakeholders, it does meet the criteria of being a low-risk project. But that is not to say that there will be any compromising with regards to the quality and commitment of all those that I expect to be involved in the project. If I were to be actually staging a full-length musical and going through the process of doing that, the risks would be almost insurmountable. There would be risks regarding finance, venues, promotion, reliability of stakeholders, but in a much greater extent, reliability regarding directors, lighting designers, set designers, costume designers. But with this much more stripped back idea, which still gives the flavour of musical theatre, it's been revised to a much more concise, low-risk project. Out of the stakeholders that I need, stakeholders being the most important part of any collaborative project, there are relatively few compared to other projects like my aforementioned musical plan. Just the musicians, who obviously you need to record, Actors, who are synonymous with the musicians because they will of course have to be singers, but acting talent and getting into a character is completely fundamental to this project. An engineer for recording sessions to set up all of the tech, and a producer to handle the mixing and the mastering when that is finally finished. And outside of those 4 categories, there are no observable stakeholders beyond myself, of course, but this is my project, so I kind of go without saying. And it is very, very surprising, in a moment of reflection, to say that the stakeholders and risk that I have by doing this now, as a much more stripped back version of what would other be a very intense project, are so low, which was very, very surprising, and I look forward to seeing how the project develops. Thank you so much.